Deathwatch.
Hello, my name is Travis, and I am joined by the usual suspects, and together we are Deathwatch Productions. Today we will be playing Pendragon, which is Chaosium's game of knightly combat and chivalry. Before we begin, all Monty Python references will result in a loss of glory and honor. Not really, you guys can go for it. I don't see how we'd be able to get through it otherwise. We'll be playing the Adventure of the Sword Tournament, which is one of the adventures included in the Pendragon starter set, published by Chaosium, and it's part of a greater campaign called the Sword Campaign. We're just going to do the first part, and if we like it, maybe years down the road we'll do the other ones. But it's written by Greg Stafford and David Larkins. You guys, as we're going about, feel free to interject with any questions you have about the rules, because we'll kind of go slow to start, make sure we understand it. But before we get to it, let's have our players introduce themselves and the knight they will be playing.
I'm Brandon. I'll be playing Sir Clarion, a young, was it Welsh?
I think we all are.
Oh, okay. And that's all we know about him so far.
Nice. I'm playing Sir Evrain. Is that what we did?
Yeah.
Sir Evrain, the lustful, but he's just lustful. Knight, or hedge knight, basically, mercenary knight.
Yes.
And I am John playing Cadwallon. He is an esquire, so I'm not even a real person yet. But soon, one day.
Well, you have more
Hopefully.
honor than a commoner.
Barely.
Okay, so the sense I get, the gist of this game is to simulate playing a knight in 6th century Britain, or rather a semi-mythical version of Britain during that time. So that's a historical period just after the withdrawal of the Roman Empire and during the Anglo-Saxon migration into Britain. However, these scenarios will still feature things like magic, dragons, prophecy, and a lot of other fantasy tropes just on the fringe, like a little garnishment, you might think. The rules seem most interested in depicting the web of passion, honor, and glory that knights are mired in, the conflict between one's moral code, innate desire, and duty to those they owe fealty, is played out in both court and battle. So that's what we'll be doing, is courting and battling. So the setup here is the year is 510, albeit just so. It is the 9th day of January, to be precise. The cold, gray, leaden skies mirror the mood of the land. There have been none to wear the crown of Logres since the death of King Uther 15 years ago. All of Britain suffers under the depredations of rapacious, ambitious barons and opportunistic raiders. The player knights, you guys, are landless knights in the service, this year anyways, of King Leo de Grance. You find yourselves camped outside the great city of Londinium, awaiting the chance to participate in a grand tournament, the first of its kind, which shall happen on the morrow. Rumors also swirl that a new high king shall be crowned. Londinium is far and away the greatest settlement in all of Britain, and the most remarkable pit of filth and iniquity that our young knights have ever seen. Nevertheless, the place does have a certain draw for young men. We'll just leave that unspoken. In the camp outside the city, where you currently find yourselves, amongst all the other knights gathered there for the tournament, you busy yourselves preparing. In contrast, the lowly sorts in the camp, and a few of the knights, if we're being honest, entertain themselves with bohorts, which is like a brawl amongst all the squires. You throw them in a big fenced area, watch them brawl. Or bear baiting, which is dogs fighting a chained or wounded bear, and other martial games. Now, in most cases, just like any role-playing game we've played in the past, you can dictate your actions however you choose, save for the times that I call for what's required, a decision roll. So let's do one of those now to determine if your knights succumb to the pull of the city or decide to stay in the camp. So you can open your character sheets, go to that personality traits section, find the trait pair prudent and its corresponding one reckless. If your rating in one of those traits is 16 or higher, you have to roll that trait first. Otherwise, you can choose which of the two traits you guys want to roll first.
What is a clodhopper?
I don't know. I was wondering about that myself. Let's see. Define clodhopper.
No.
I've succumbed, as I will enter the city.
It's a foolish, awkward, or clumsy person.
That's
I will
surprising.
clumsily enter the city.
Okay, so Clarion succeeded on his prudent trait check. Cadwallon failed, and
I failed
you
on
chose
mine.
reckless.
Yeah, it's the higher.
So for those of you who failed, now you choose the opposing trait pair and you roll that one. So that would be Cadwallon on prudent or reckless and Sir Everine on prudent.
But you might get me on the lustful.
So it looks like Sir Everine failed on both the trait pairs, which means you can do whatever you want your character to do as the player. You're not beholden to your character, and it looks like that's the same with Cadwallon. Now, we'll just make this one an example only and not necessarily hold you to it, Sir Clarion. So you guys can all decide if you want to stay out there amongst the knights. You're camped outside the city near to like an outlying village because you need them to cook for all the knights because you guys aren't going to be able to do that on your own.
Yeah, like, we're knights.
Right. So yeah, so you guys can decide what you want to do. And you're familiar with each other, although you come from sort of different areas, but you've been serving under King Leodegrance. You just inked the contract. You've met each other, and you guys ride in what's called a conroy, which is the basic unit of knight. It's like 10 to 15 knights. You put conroys together and you get a battalion. You put battalions together and, you get your army, right? So yeah, you're familiar with everybody in your conroy, and all three of you are in the same one. So you're camped closely to each other. You can determine whether you've struck up a friendship or not.
For points of ease, I don't see why not.
Right. Yeah. Well, you all, like I said, I think you weren't here, John. You would all assume that even the lowly Esquire Cadwallon has the honor of his raised station. So, what do you want to do, Sir Clarion?
So the temptation is to go into the city and like check the place out.
Yeah, but according to your role, if we were going to do it for real, you would stay in the camp because you succeeded on prudent.
Yeah.
You would see all of the very unchristian
Right.
behavior that has gone on in the city, and you'd be like, that's not the place for me.
It's not. Yeah.
Plus, I need to be rested for the tournament.
Yeah. I need to. I'll stay out here,
Okay.
and I'll keep myself from temptation.
Right. Have a priest recite scripture to you,
Yeah.
or pretend to read it if you wish.
Do I know how to read?
You don't know how to read.
Well, I'll learn how to read.
You'll work on learning how to read. All right, Sir
That's what I'll do in
Everine.
the winter.
I think that I'm fine hanging out, but if one of my other companions wish to enter the city, I'll probably tag along, use them as the excuse.
All right, so I guess it comes down to you, Cadwallon.
Since I'm still in the business of trying to find my lord, I will, or at least someone to knight me, I will stay and check over my equipment and make sure the armor and everything is in good condition. Plus, there's food out here. So.
Okay.
Awesome. I guess I'll go hang out at the bear trapping. Is that what it's
Right,
called?
the bear baiting.
Bear baiting.
Watch the dogs mess up a bear. Okay, so you all notice the red boxes next to the skills and all the other skills. Unlike Call of Cthulhu, this box is only checked when a critical success or a fumble is rolled. And in the case of traits, the fumble checks the opposing trait.
Okay.
Right, so if you fumble reckless, then you would check, the other one, prudent. Additionally, the game master may award a check based on player knight behavior or success in particular circumstances. So you guys all decided to stay in the camp, and I'm actually going to award you a prudent check for such a decision. Because a lot of the younger knights are, making their way into Ladinium because
They're fools.
they are. Sir Clarion's called it. But you guys have stayed in this camp of knights, so you see, this is just a mess of heraldry because all the knights have one. The lords have them and kings have them. And, depending on the web of service that they're in, a tent can have pennants whipping, and they're ordered in such a way where obviously the king goes on top. And a king in this time is like the best warlord of a region because there are many kings,
Yeah.
So Sir Everin goes off to watch the bear baiting. And I'm curious if the gaming skill work is that deal with bets. Is that what that is?
Could probably
Or is that a
cover
hunting thing?
Oh, yeah, I don't know on this. In the basic roleplay system, it's any sort of...
Yeah, so it's play various games effectively and with aplomb, whether in competition or for entertainment. So yeah, you're watching the bear baiting. So what's going on here is the knights, but mostly squires. Although as a pagan, it's less of an offense to see you at one of these things.
I can get away with stuff.
Yeah, you can give a gaming roll, and we'll see if you earn a few. I forget what the name.
So what would it?
So is this, or instead of dogs, they're making the squires fight the bear?
No.
Get in there,
These
Squire.
things, like Clarion would have this viewpoint. These things are technically below the interests of a knight.
Yeah.
They're put on for all the camp help and the squires.
Right.
Although they do watch the squire brawl a little bit more because it's your squire that you're putting
Yeah.
up there. Like, what's your squire's name?
Oh, Bobbert.
Did you want to send him off into the
Get in that
the
melee,
bohort?
To
Robert.
the melee?
Man, what would I think on that? Actually, I like personally, I don't. I
He's
would
gotta
want
prove himself.
something of mine
Yeah.
to be damaged.
Yeah, that's
with
true. But his whole training is
Also to be
martial,
combative,
right? So
yeah.
that it is useful to do that. However, you do have a tournament tomorrow in which you might need your squire. So if he gets too badly injured, that could be a bad thing. So it depends on what you think Sir Everin would do.
Let's see.
But you lost a few pennies in the course of betting on the bear baiting.
Yeah, I think old Bobbert doesn't need to go
Okay.
get knocked around just yet.
What is that called again?
The bohort, it's Bohort.
And that essentially, that definition is just a big
It's just
squire melee.
Yeah, they make like a fence. You push all your squires into it, and they just brawl each other, right? And it's really just a melee without sides.
Oh man.
That's a practice that I personally find repugnant.
But yeah, I'll get Bobbert's like input on his ideas. If he wants to participate, he can do so at a later date. It's just
Yeah.
that I'll need him tomorrow. So
All right, Cadwallon, are you going to send off? Even though you're not a knight, you can still train squires, and you do have one. Did you want to send him off to the bohort or do any gambling on either the bohort or the bear baiting?
What is his name? I
You
don't
get a
have
name?
That's up
anything
to
in the
you.
Squires section.
Boy doesn't have a name until his knight names him. No, that's not true. But I just left it unnamed so you guys could name him. But if you want me to randomly generate a name for you, I can.
I think the default should be Bobbert.
Bobbert.
Yeah. All squires are named Bobbert until they earn their title.
How about
He
Odo?
is Gruffud.
Gruffud? Okay. So are you just going to have him get the food and make sure everything's clean for you, or are you going to send him off?
Well,
John?
I remember being pushed into this bohart myself, so of course he has to participate in.
Fine tradition.
Right. Okay, so
It builds character.
he has a squire skill roll that you can roll against. If you look at that squire section on your character sheet,
What
one of them
age
doesn't
is
work.
he?
Does it not say? So the squire age
No,
is
it's
like
left.
it's like from 12 to as high as I think 18.
All right, I'll make him 14 then.
Okay.
Couple years into his squirehood.
Or wait, maybe it. I did remember something now. I think the squire rating is the same as the squire's age. So they start at 12 and then they get 1 point for every year they're a squire.
Okay, so that works out because his
Yeah.
skill is 14.
So yeah, go ahead and roll that. We'll see how he does in the bohort.
I'm taking the Mr. Miyagi approach with my squire.
there.
All he does is dang.
It says no attribute was found.
Yeah, I had to make a separate line in your character sheet beneath where it says squire skill because that one doesn't work. I know there's a few things broken on the character sheet, but you should see a line underneath there that says squire skill roll or something like that. No? Maybe I didn't put it. Maybe I only put it
No,
on.
I'll make it real quick.
Yeah, just you guys can add it if maybe I only did it on one of the characters for testing.
It'd be R.
We add it where?
In the Squire box, there should be a section to add
2d20.
skills to them.
Yeah, and what would we add?
Just do Squire skill roll is what you can label it.
Did pretty well, I think. A 9 out of 14.
Yeah, okay. So also, worst comes to worst, you could, that's 2 successes, though. I forget how to make them tally.
Oh,
But there is a hotkey, or
Right,
not hotkey,
yeah.
but text macro that you can do for
yeah,
it.
no, man, I forget. Oh, well. But as you see, I did like a battle intensity roll amongst the other squires there, which has a higher success than yours. So he does come back a little bruised. We'll see how bruised.
I thought it was supposed to be below. So what? Do you want to be below the threshold, or do you want to be like as close to the threshold as possible?
Yeah, so think of like 21, where you actually want to hit 21.
Oh, okay.
But obviously, lower is still in the game. If you go over, you bust, right? But in this case, so you're at the table, you're sitting with a guy who got 13 versus your 9, right? Or think like I'm the dealer and you're the player. So I got a 13 and you stayed on 9 for whatever reason. But anyhow, yeah. So he takes a bit of a beating.
No, I think that's more than just a bit.
No, it's below a major wound for him, but he comes back with like 2 black eyes and he's missing a tooth.
That builds character.
Yeah, that happened to you one time. All right. So Clarion, as the good and righteous knight, are you gonna send your squire off to participate? You need him hail in a hole
Yeah,
for the.
he would no doubt enjoy participating, but
Yeah, he does look like he's chomping at the bit a little
Yeah.
bit as you walk back from the mess tents
yeah,
with
but
your food.
he needs to stay focused on the tournament.
Well, he needs to, what is it? Oh man, learn some of these dang traits.
Right.
Temperance or something?
Yeah. So yes, you got your food. You're making sure your gear's in working order, or your squire is, and you're sitting there making idle conversation with a knight named Sir Tomlin. He's a knight of Cornwall. He serves the king there. It's mostly aimed at the melee, the grand tournament for tomorrow, because as I mentioned, it is the first of its kind. So everybody's very excited. It's supposed to simulate just a regular battle where you face off against each other, and it's supposed to go all day is the plan. So like 8 hours of battle.
And what do you win?
Well, you win honor. If you unhorse a knight, you can take their horses. You always need, you guys break lots of horse legs and stuff in the act of battle, or just riding.
Now I just imagine knights are going around like snapping horse legs, like branches over their knees.
This horse is no good. Yeah, so if
Look
you
at
say
this horse. Hey, well, if it's like the horse in the picture, I mean, that
That's
thing
gonna
needs
be
to
no
be
good.
put down immediately.
Well, you need to make a sand check to even approach it. Do it.
So yeah, as I said, if you say in the opening charge, as all battles begin with a charge, as long as it's not an ambush or something, say you unhorse your opponent, you could have your squire who's nearby in hollering distance come out and try to nab that horse and bring it back to your side, and that's what you knights are wagering basically during the course of battle is horses and glory, basically.
Okay, well, I'm 21, so I need a wife.
Yeah, you're almost over the hill.
I better get to marry a princess if I win this.
That's a lower order thing than honor and glory. All right, so the games abate after a time, and people settle in for the night because there's really not much to do once it becomes night and you're outside the city. Although you do, at the edge of the city, you hear the city stays awake for longer than you're accustomed to. And in the morning, it's the tournament. So we'll zoom over there. You guys, early in the morning, you hear workers hammering in stakes and stuff to cordon off a large section of field in between Londinium and that village you were camping near. It's sort of adjacent to where your camp was. And the map I currently have you guys on with tokens is to represent a section of that field.
Is this a tourney?
Yeah, a grand melee, actually. They're not doing a joust in the other games that they would have at a traditional tournament. This is actually a new thing that you guys haven't experienced as knights this attempt to simulate battlefield conditions. This grand melee field is staked out between Watling Street and Fleet Street. These are two streets that run out from Londinium. As you assemble with King Leo de Grants, which is the leader of your conroy, there's about 10 knights in your conroy. There are workers that go around and they tie a blue cloth to your sword arm. And all knights, I should mention, are right-handed, even if they're not.
Yep.
And this marks you out as the blue team. Other groups of knights are given red cloths, and once that's all done, you're told to muster across from the field there. And you can see people have set out tables and whatnot for food and for the knights to come and, have some ale in between bouts. Because what will happen in the course of battle is you'll have to retreat, and you just come back here to the rear and, reformulate your plan and figure out what you're going to do from there. Okay, so large-scale battles such as this proceed in turns, and each turn lasts roughly an hour. During each turn, your conroy will endure one encounter or a special kind of encounter called an opportunity. During the encounter, you will fight for one or more combat rounds. That depends on the posture you take. That's just a choice each knight makes when they go into it. Anyhow, once the combat rounds are over, the encounter ends, and you're supposed to see it as sort of the most impactful section of that hour of combat. And then you kind of summarize into the next hour. To start the battle, your conroy must generate a morale score, which determines when and with whom you can engage and when you must retreat to the rear to rest and re-equip. You might imagine in this case, as you're standing at the sidelines, maybe taking your breakfast, that King Leo de Grants and is like going up and down his conroy, kind of talking to each of you, getting you all prepped up for battle. But we'll say he stops by Sir Clarion, and he says, "To what do you fight this day, Sir Clarion?" And he's basically asking you which of the passions you will fight for. So you can go to your character sheet, look at your passion list. Obviously, the higher the rating, the better. The more likely you'll be able to invoke it later on if you wish.
Okay, so I got honor and fealty to him and station are the three highest I have. So I just gonna pick one.
Yeah,
I
whichever.
fight for honor. He's not my lead.
Yeah, he would be your liege. You are contractually obligated rather than a member of his house in this case. But
I fight for honor, my liege.
yes, and he says, yes, that is good. That is what we shall all fight for. Basically, in order to generate the morale score, all of the knights in the conroy have to choose from the same school. You led as the first to top. So you kind of set the standard for all the knights. You can't, the rest of them don't want to go off and be like, well,
No, I'm fighting for hospitality.
it'll be like, it'll be weird. It'll be awkward amongst the knights. So you all have to choose honor. It's its own little thing. And I think you all have a 15 honor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is also what you wager in the battle. So if you do poorly, it can mess up your honor, right? Because this is ostensibly the reason you are here and what you are trying to attain. So a poor showing will drop that honor thing. But since you all have an honor of 15, that's going to generate, let me pull this up, your morale score. So here I have in the turn order the combat round counter and then the basic movements of a combat round, which is declaration, resolve, movement. But I'm going to add morale because this will go up and down in the course of a battle. So because you all chose honor, not that Sir Clarion gave you much of a choice, you get a +5.
Sorry, I didn't know I was picking for everybody.
It's good though, because the only other ones I have that are that high is hospitality, which doesn't seem like it fits.
Yeah, I'm fighting for hospitality.
Yeah.
Well, older knights would see it as sort of the province of the young to really go for that, because as you get older, the other passions are going to grow and take over your life more. But anyhow, that gives you morale. So it takes the average of your passions that you're using, and because they're all the same, it adds +5 to it. Now, the only time they would be different is if we did the school of Fidelitas. If you did I fight for the king, and he did I fight for Lord or King, or sorry, some other thing he had fidelity to, that could happen, but it wouldn't be the same exact passion. So anyhow, 20 morale, that's pretty high. That means you'll be able to fight for a good while before you must retreat to the rear. Okay, where are we at?
So it's almost like a fatigue system that's made on the fly.
Right, yeah.
I'm liking that.
Okay, so, all right, so the trumpets blare, and the Grand Marshal of the tournament announces the rules of the tournament. So, your weapons, this was all outfitted as you were getting to the edge of the field, have been rebaited or blunted. Blunted where they could, like a lance, or rebaited in the case of a weapon where the edge is disrupted, right?
I like to think that they just put some padding over the lance, but they like took a hammer to the sword edge.
Right. A knight is defeated if he is unhorsed, knocked unconscious, or surrenders, or is killed. When an opponent is defeated, their steed may become the prize of the winner if the knight or squire can bring it to a safe area. So those are just the general rules. Now, if you are unhorsed, you continue fighting. It just counts as a victory for that point. And you can see there's judges and people all along the field edge with, a tally system, and they'll have heraldry above like this certain tally system so they can move things as you lose and gain glory during the course of the battle. So for the last hour, you have been parading around on your side of the tourney grounds with King Leo de Grance in the front for the benefit of the onlookers who cheer you. But at the blast of a second trumpet, you muster into a great host, of which your conroy, led by Leo de Grance, is but a fraction. So this is all of the blue team. So this is a bunch of conroys of knights. There are hundreds of knights gathered on each side, and it is quite a spectacle to behold, because they're all on their war horses. They all have their blunted lances, and so there's a sort of a gentle rumble that just goes throughout the field as horses are constantly shifting. And then the final blast occurs, and you and the other knights spur your horses forward. So this battle, like most battles, shall begin with a mounted charge.
So what is the difference between charge and horsemanship?
So horsemanship is a skill you might use if you were going to, say, have your horse leap something, but it's also the limiter of weapon skills when you're on a horse. So if for some reason you train your sword up to a 20 and your horsemanship was 15, then you'd roll 15 and not 20. So that's, if you want to be a good horseman with any weapon, then you need to keep them sort of coming up at the same pace. Okay, so as you near your enemy, amidst a thundering of hooves and whipping of banners, you can see that fate has conspired to match you against the Knights of Gore, who are stern men from the north, donned in archaic armor. So let me pull them out here.
I hear they eat people.
I also hear that they worship false gods still.
So this is...
There's nothing wrong with that. We all worship a
Pagan.
false god or two.
They use these cards for the makeup of the enemy battle, and since a big battle has a lot of chance and fate to it, the game master determines what the opening one's going to be. This is just what the happenstance of you lining up where you did on your side and them lining up on where they did on their side, and the ensuing clash towards each other. I say it's the Knights of Gore. However, what occurs next is called the battle intensity roll. But let me figure out something else here, because you guys also see nearby another group, and it would be possible with some careful tactical maneuvers to attack this group. So let me pull them out. These are the Knights of Lothian, and they are led by King Lot himself. He's a king from the north, a dour-looking fellow. And it would be a lot of glory in attacking his conroy directly. Perhaps with a lot of luck, you could even unhorse the king himself, which would make you a good contender as the sure winner of the day. But you can see as you're charging across, you're thundering across the field, that it doesn't look likely that will occur. But there's one other thing that we do to check that. So there's a thing called battle intensity. And this has a numerical value between 1 and 20, like everything else. Your average typical, say, clearing the picks off of your land battle would be around 10 to 12. We'll say this one's 12 because everybody is a knight, right? So they're pretty well trained. However, because this is a tournament, you have it. So it's a 6. So battle intensity 6. So the game master makes what's called an intensity roll against that value, 6. And I failed. So what that means in game terms is that the battle is not so intense that the knights are swept up in it. They have the opportunity to make a decision on whether they're going to fight, in this case, the Knights of Gore or the Knights of Lothian. And the way we determine if that's possible is you guys each make a battle roll.
And battle is a
It's in a skill. Yeah, the skill section. Pretty low. You guys are young, yep.
Yeah.
All right, so...
We all rolled pretty much the same.
Yeah, so none of you... This is where the skill of the player comes in. None of you have the tactical knowledge to actually maneuver within your convoy to line up. So you're still going to go with the Knights of Gore, but we'll see how King Leo de Grance does, because actually the convoy leader is the one who makes the battle roll. That was for testing purposes, and he has a battle skill of 18. Very seasoned veteran. So yes, he succeeds. He can actually change the course of fate. He knows enough, he signals for you guys to spur forward and to you kind of alter your path so that you're going to clash with the Knights of Lothian. Now, you guys, this is a very honorable move. Let's put it that way. Because it's a large convoy. It kind of outnumbers yours a little bit.
Okay.
So there's quite a few knights in it. And they're better equipped than the ones you were going to face off of. And they have a reputation for being fierce. It's the north. This would be where present-day Scotland is and whatnot. There's some wild people up there. So let me populate this battle map real quick.
Do we get to choose targets in this?
Yeah, once we're joined, we enter rounds of combat for a little while, and then it speeds up. I mean, this is the battle system, so it has there's regular combat where you're fighting. You're not simulate armies meeting. This is where you would just run across some bandits in the woods, and that plays very much like every other role playing system you've played in the past, where you just go round by round until the victor is determined. But what they want to do in this game, since battles of this period would last all day for a short battle, and then days for a battle where two large armies meet, and then weeks to months when you get into sieges, they want it to be able to simulate battle at the hour level. So we're going to do this is going to represent that first hour of battle, and we're going to do a few rounds of combat to see how you guys do. And then I figure out what position that puts you in next. And then we do intensity roll and battle roll. So you'll see how it works. This is just very narrow at the moment, but in a big battle, I would have, dozens of battle cards out here, and you might get a command to say go take the archers over there on the hill or something like that, right?
Yeah, I was making tokens a while back where it's based on the old ones where it's almost like a rectangle with a colored facing for the front and then the heraldry colors.
Right.
So I was making some of those. I was thinking, because I think there's a tent option on a token. I'm not sure. But I could, if there is one. I'm not seeing it here anymore. I wonder if it was an older thing. But if you make them grayscale and you could tent it, I wouldn't have to make a bunch of different colors. So your guys' tent would be one color, and then you have all the enemies. And I don't know. Sorry, non sequitur.
No, it's all that stuff's really fascinating. I like those different.
Well, I like looking at the maps where they have all of the almost chess pieces, looking like units to represent stuff, and they're pushing them around, and I love all that stuff. So
I think what they want to do is as you mature as a knight, and you're the convoy leader, or maybe you're leading a battalion, is they want you to be able to affect the battle during the course of part of the session, right? And so this would be where there's a lot of time where you're going to be in a tent, right, looking at the map like we might be looking at it now and trying to determine how to position units. Now, since you're young knights, what most often occurs is what are called scripted battles, because you're not really on the tactical side of it. It's about seeing how you comport yourself. You're at the mercy of your lords and the fate of battle. So that's what's occurring here. Is you were told to gather with King Leo de Grance. He chose who you're charging. If you were going to make a wise choice, you might not pick the Knights of Lothian because they exceed you in capability, but it is an honorable choice.
Yeah, we're fighting for honor.
Yeah.
Thanks, Clarion.
Hey,
okay, so
worse could be hospitality.
So let's take a look at. Let me flip this card over. So before the
is this where
engagement,
my lazy personality trait comes in?
perhaps you might go cowardly. So the cost of this engagement, the first thing we have to check is the morale loss. Now, to fight the Knights of Lothian, because they exceed you in ability and they're so menacing, they cost 2d6 of your morale. So that's going to affect how long you can stay in battle. Let me see what that amount is. So it turns out you only lose 6. That's deducted from your morale total, which brings you guys down to 12. And each battle group has a morale cost to begin engage with in any case. So in the
wouldn't
case,
that take us to 14?
oh, did I? Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
we had
right. Sorry.
20.
Bad math. But you guys are the morale minimum to fight the Knights of Lothian is 13. So you were well amped up to get in there, and so you're all good.
I like how you flipping the card over and all that stuff. I like that.
Yeah, that's. I didn't know how to set that up until I was looking at how they did it in that game, but it is pretty handy. Okay, so that's one part of it. A final selection before we can actually engage in battle is what your posture is. This is the way that you attack the enemy, and it determines how many rounds you will fight. There are a few postures you can take. You can take reckless, valorous, or cowardly. I think there might be one more. Let me take a look. Now, because you're charging, that rules out cowardly. There's no such thing as a cowardly charge.
I don't know. I believe Brave Sir Robin could come up with
Right.
some.
So reckless or valorous?
Yeah, reckless or valorous. Now, because it's a contest like this, a reckless one would be seen as dishonorable. However, depending on your trait alignment, you might be able to get away with it. Does anybody want to try for reckless?
No.
I'm pretty valorous myself, so
Yeah,
I'll always
I
try to
am
side with
too.
that.
Let me make sure I got all the postures.
Can I make a trusting charge?
I want to do a lustful charge.
Yeah, so I guess you could. That would be invoking your passion. We'll get to that in a moment. There's one more called prudent, which is the non-cowardly way of...
But the defensive.
Right, yeah. Although prudent also doesn't work in a charge. Charge does narrow you down to valorous or reckless. And since none of you are going to risk your honor to be, overly reckless, it narrows our choice to valorous, which means you're going to fight this engagement for 2 combat rounds, and you guys can all check your valorous trait.
I guess I am kind of reckless too. What's the number where it's what was the term?
16.
Famous.
16. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not famously reckless. Where the hell did it go?
Did you want to try to choose it? You can. So basically how it works is you'll roll against your honest trait, and
Valor.
you lose an honor if you succeed. If you don't succeed, then you can do the reckless thing. Okay.
I'm fine being valorous.
All right, so make sure you got the check in your valorous.
Mm-hmm.
So you can rapidly see as you approach, as you're thundering across the field, as you guys start to tilt your lances down to clash, that you are outnumbered by this convoy of northern knights. So the final thing of note is that you may roll for a passion inspiration at this time or the beginning of subsequent battle turns. So how long a passion inspiration is going to last is it's going to last through the whole combat turn. So it'll last, or the battle turn will last these 2 rounds. So you might think, well, I want to do passion and get a bonus to my lance, but you're only likely to have the 1 pass of the lance, just how easy they break. So if you want to use it now, you could use it for sword or whatever skill you might think comes up. We will not worry about passion crises for this one because the intensity is so low. But if you guys want to do it, you may do so now.
So basically no real penalty or no crises penalty?
Yeah, you either fail and get a bonus or you'll fail and not get a bonus or succeed and get a bonus. So
Which
I'll try
passion?
it.
Or,
you guys can do honor because that's what you have framed this battle in this tournament, or you can do any of the others that apply. Like you could invoke your passion of fealty for King Leo de Grance because you want to protect him in the ensuing combat.
Maybe move up a rank or whatever.
Yeah. You could do it for the lady, what is her name? Sorry.
Let's see. Morcades?
Morcades,
However
because
that's pronounced.
you actually glimpse her You had glimpsed her on the sidelines. They've erected these wooden towers for the nobles and ladies to oversee the tournament.
I wasn't going to, but now that you mention it.
You can see her white dress up there.
All right, let's see if it
will
works.
do it for Marginally the worst horse.
Oh, you got it. So in the case of adoration, you get +10.
To my roll?
To which skill did you want it to go towards?
Probably charge.
The charge skill? Yep, you'll get +10 to it.
Jesus. And that's just input, just straight 10?
Yeah,
or-
so you just hit when the modification box pops up, you hit in 10 and it'll sort out the roll. The way it works is it's going to change your threshold up to 20, and then any points above that are going to widen the critical window.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we at? Sir Clarion does it for honor. He succeeds. You get a +5. Are you doing it on your charge as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Cadwallon, you're for honor as well, and you get a
Yeah.
+5. Anytime you make a charge roll, it's possible you guys might do another pass, depending on how it turns out. For this battle turn, you get +5 to it. All right, so you guys are sufficiently impassioned. There's that moment where the whole battle line does its intake of breath, anticipating the great clash between armored knights and heavy chargers, and then a great cacophony of sound. So let's match this up. So Clarion, you are going up against a group of knights that, because of the odds between your two groups, they're both trying to get you with their lances. So what do you want to do? You want to try to work again? Oh, I think you can only do a single target in a charge, right? So you're going to pick one or the other, basically.
Yeah.
But if you take a -5, you can defend against the other one with your shield as well.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so since you have that passion inspiration +5,
Yeah.
and you have a -5 for defending against 2, you're going to roll your charge skill twice just at the base, because those modifiers cancel each other out.
Okay.
And I will roll the Knights of Lothian here.
All right. Charge.
Yeah, go and roll it twice.
I don't believe we can act dishonorably against these knights. They sound truly evil. Knights of Lothian. I mean, come on.
Right. All right, so you got 2 successes, although they're fairly low. Let's see how your opponents do. Ooh, you beat one of them. The other one's got you, though. All right, so this is all occurring simultaneously. You are targeting one and defending against both of them. So go ahead. You win the first contest. Go ahead and roll your charge damage, which should be the 66 lance damage.
Is 5d6?
He's a little stronger than you, Cadwallon.
Oh, okay.
So the way damage is determining is you have character damage, which is factored by your characteristics, and then weapon adds to it. So if your character damage plus what the sword is, that comes up with your total group. So and your lance skill is actually based off of your horse's
Size.
yeah. As far the maximum damage can be. So he might even have higher than 66. It's just the horse is going to keep it down to that point, maybe. All right. So let's see here. So the next thing I check after we determine the winner's outcome is you rolled all that damage, is I'm going to check for knockdown. His knockdown is 17, so he does get a check, and he succeeds, so he stays in the saddle. Okay, now the next thing that occurs as we look at how much damage that actually is, you remember I said you're using blunted lances, so you do half of that, and in this case you round up, so that would be 16, yeah. So that's 16 damage actually getting through, and since he also succeeded, he gets what's a partial success, and he can add his shield and resisting that. So in his case, he has 10 for Halberg, Akaton, Nasal Helm, and then 6 for the Kite Shield. So yeah, it's just picture perfect lance, and he gets the shield right at the time. So it was a honorable exchange, but you don't unhorse him. And he stays in the saddle, and you guys go streaming past. Now, on the other hand, this is reversed, where my knight gets to hit you, but he didn't roll quite as well. Okay, so the next thing, as I said, is a knockdown check. If it exceeds your knockdown secondary characteristic, matches or exceeds, then roll a dexterity. If you have your token selected, it should pop up the macro.
Yeah, so my knockdown's 14.
Yep.
Okay, so roll a dexterity.
Yes.
Oh.
Failure. So you get lifted. So you catch one directly on your shield and divert the momentum better than the other one. That one actually, let's see here. tilts up a little bit and hooks you under the left armpit and rips you from the saddle, and you go crashing to the ground, and you take 5 points of damage. This ignores armor, the fall damage does. This is kind of aided and abetted by armor because it adds extra weight, crushing you down. In this case, you hit just badly on your leg, not enough to
So
really...
you thought this was broken.
It's working now.
Left arm, left leg.
But since you didn't fumble, you keep, your kit in hand.
Okay.
You still...
Is that's aggravation damage?
No, it's just a wound for 5 damage. Fell
Okay.
from horse. You might put in there.
Gotcha.
All right, and that resolves.
So when you add the wound, we're just hitting the add button and putting it in?
Yeah.
Yeah, wound.
Okay.
What is it?
There's because sometimes you might take, say, like the same type of wound multiple times. Instead of adding a whole new line, you could just tick up how many of there are that type of wound.
And then like keep damage total, or
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's move on to Sir Evrain. Like Sir Clarion, you are facing against 2 knights, and that's different is that you have a +10 impassioned bonus because you're going to impress this lady who watches you from her tower.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to focus on 1 and drop the -5 for defending against 2, but risking yourself for, perhaps a harder hit, or do you want to do what Sir Clarion did?
Man, I'm 12 reckless. It almost seems like I should focus on just unhorsing this one guy.
It does give you the best chance of a critical,
Yeah.
because I think
I'd be at a 25.
yeah.
So 5 extra. Man. Yeah, I think I'll bend more into the reckless because you got to show off, and showing off is being reckless.
Yeah.
And if you fall and, you're going to embarrass yourself. That's how showing off works, right?
I agree. Go ahead and roll out your
Charge.
just 1. I only need the 1.
All right, so I'm putting in 10.
Yep. There it is.
Nice.
So double my... Oh, it's like not yet, right?
Yeah, hold on just a sec. Let me see. There is they could critical too. It is possible. But let's see how they do. No. And then the other one attacks you unopposed, and he got a success.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead and roll the damage for your lance, and make sure in the mod window you type in 4d6.
Is it my lance damage doubled, or is it 4d6?
It's the 6d6, and then you type in the mod window when you click the roll,
Okay.
4d6.
I was just wondering if
The critical modifier is always 4d6.
Okay, I see.
All right, big 34. All right, that is enough to automatically knock him from his saddle. So we'll go ahead and do this.
Well, it's halved, right?
Yeah, but you check for knockdown before rebating and all that sort of stuff. So the idea is you still want to be able to knock down the guy. You're just not wanting to hurt him. So it is still a lot of force, enough to lift him out of the damage. It's just less damage that's going to pierce through armor because you're all blunted. But yeah, that connects squarely. He gets his shield up, but it's such a perfect point. There's like a golden zone you're trying to tilt that lance into, and it's sort of wavering, and you kind of feel that moment you're in the zone. It comes right in there, and it just sends him sailing out of the saddle. He falls, crashes on the lance goes flying. He crashes on that arm underneath his body and takes a bit of damage here, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
But I put a little symbol to note that he is prone
Nice.
for the next round.
All right, now see if I'm prone, right?
Yeah, let's
he's
see
a
how
porcupine, apparently.
let's see how the other guy did.
He's going to start spinning and take off really fast. He's a hedgehog.
So 17, I believe that exceeds your knockdown characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and roll a dex roll, or hit the macro if your token's selected. So you stay in the saddle. And because you succeeded on your opposing roll, you defend with both your shield and your armor, which is the same as Sir Clarion. 16, you only take 1 point of actual damage. It just diverted down and clipped your right leg there as you're passing each other, just above the knee. It feels like a real solid punch, sends a jolt up your leg, but you don't feel anything break. And you can record that in your wounds.
All right.
And we'll move on to Cadwallon. So unlike your 2 comrades, you are only facing off against a single knight, so you don't have to worry about defending yourself as well. You can just face off against that knight, roll your charge skill, add a 5 modifier to it for your inspiration for honor. Nice. Let's see how they do. Ooh, guys are doing good today. You guys are rolling great today. So you're the winner in the contest, although you got a partial success. Go ahead and roll your charge damage, your lance or spear damage. I think you might have a spear, not a lance.
Because I have a lance as well.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead and roll it out.
Why are you copying us? You're not a knight.
Okay. So 16 damage, not quite enough to check a knockdown for these Knights of Lothian, but... And he takes that lance on the shield, but your lance is intact, right? So it deflects off his shield, no damage is dealt to him, he stays in his horse, and you guys ride past each other. Now, in the other cases, I think in your exchange, Brandon, one of them broke their lance. It shattered on your shield as you were defending, right?
Yeah.
And so he'll have to go into the sword next round. Okay.
How do we determine if our lance broke?
So if you had gotten a partial success in defending, so maybe Clarion's lance did break and I skipped that.
He's a hero.
Oh, no. You succeeded on the one you were aiming at. Yeah, so none of you guys all succeeded, so none of your lances broke.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on to combat round 2. The way the rounds go, you declare, resolve, and then any movement is dealt with. Now, both of these Knights of Lothian, on you, Clarion, the other one ditches his lance, and they're just trying to engage with you on sword. Because now that everybody's crushed into each other, there's not like enough room for him to get out and set up for another charge.
Yeah.
But you might be inclined to try to do that. You would just have to evade away from them this round and then come in the next round. But remember, we're only fighting for 2 rounds. You know, this is the intensity of the battle. You might want to consider exchanging sword blows with these 2 men.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the round, you just determine what weapon you want to use if you have it on your person. We're not spending an action to change it. If it's on the ground or you need your squire to bring you a new lance, then we check it that way. But you had your sword and your dagger and your belt, and you had your lance couched at the beginning. So in this case, you ditch your lance, draw your sword for honor, and then go to meet these 2 knights.
That's right.
And the engagement at the beginning of the round is determined by who has the longer weapon, and you guys all have the same reach, so you're all next to each other. All right, let's take a look at Evrain. That guy's going to try to stand up, and the other guy's lance broke, I believe. Or no, it didn't break, but he's ditching it too, and he's drawing his sword to kind of get in the way of you going for the dude on the ground, right? That's what he's trying to do. And in your case, Cadwallon, he's drawing his sword and going to come after you. So, what do you guys want to do?
Yeah, I'm pulling my sword.
I don't have enough room to charge, so gotta get the sword out.
Okay. Cadwallon?
Yeah, I'll do the same.
Yeah, so you guys, just that had the lance still, just chuck them to the side. That's what happens. You're seeing a bunch of splintered lance pieces here and there already, and the pennants that some of the knights were carrying as they charged in here. And let's just go we'll go backwards this time, Cadwallon. We'll see how you do. You're both on horse, so you don't have any particular advantage there. Remember, this time now you have a -2 on your sword roll because you have that kite shield that you're holding up as well. So go ahead and...
Still succeeded.
Oh, he fumbled.
Yeah.
Nice. Go ahead and roll damage.
Nice.
It was enough for a knockdown, but so you guys get your horses up to next to each other and you're exchanging blows. During the course of it, even though you hit him a few times, it doesn't seem like you do any, real significant damage, but you do hit him on the wrist there, and that sword of his goes spinning off to the side. And we'll move on to Sir Evrain.
Call my squire out to grab it.
He's engaged with this.
All right. So, I'll...
You can do that if you want. We'll do it at the end after this
looks
combat
like it's
round.
a pretty good sword, right?
Yeah, it's a knight's sword.
Any sword's a good sword.
Yeah, so the way this works is that guy on the horse is trying to stop you from going for the dude on the ground, although he's not fully done it yet. So you can target both of them or one of them or however you want to do it.
So what would the code of conduct be? Would I get points for having him on the ground and potentially capturing him at the end of this quick skirmish, or is that not a possibility?
Yeah, it is a point if you can get him you already got the point for knocking him out of the horse.
Okay.
Now if you knock him unconscious, you would get further points, right? So he is at an extreme disadvantage.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Just him?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I'll try to defend against the new guy.
As well.
Yeah.
You're showing off. Get that reckless out there.
Okay, now remember you were only impassioned on the charge, so you don't get that bonus. And you have a -2 for your kite shield and a -5 for attacking 2 opponents at once. So that's a -7 to each roll. But you got a +5 for the unhorsed guy. So let's do -2 for number 1.
I'm defending against one, so that counts as attacking, or
It depends. You can either attack or defend.
I want to defend against the other guy.
Well, you either can defend against all or attack.
I see.
You see what I'm saying?
All right, let's attack.
Okay. So,
-2, -5, we're up to 7.
all right. So one of my guys struggling to his feet has a -5. That's the wrong one.
He hurt himself pretty badly.
And one has a -2. And you had 2 rolls there?
I haven't done any rolls yet. So -7.
-2 for the guy who's prone and -7 for the guy you're fighting.
All right, so this is the -7 one because I already got it in.
Okay.
Ooh. Do I even roll for the second one?
No, keep going. It's,
Okay.
we got to put it all together.
And then the guy on the ground, -2.
Where you at?
I got that one.
Okay. So yeah, it looks like we got a tie for the ground guy. And then you fumbled against the second guy. Or no, yeah. Okay. All right. So on a tie, you would normally break his weapon, but since he has a sword, it doesn't happen. But on a tie, you both deal damage to each other, and you both can use shield and parry to negate incoming damage. So let me roll his sword damage, which I accidentally did. He got a 20, and you go ahead and roll yours out.
12.
Okay. So you got to make a knockdown check for me.
Succeeded on the knockdown.
Got it. So then after the rebate, you're looking at 10, and your armor takes that on its own. Okay, the other guy, for which you fumbled, is swinging his sword at you. He does a hit for 16. That's another knockdown check.
Got it.
Got it. After the rebate, you're looking at 8. Again, it's just not getting past your shield. So you can imagine that you're going down swiping at this guy, and he actually got a good thrust up towards your leg. And then this guy's coming at you from the other side, and you're knocking it away with his shield. But he does, when you push it away, he does get that sword back over in a kind of riposte as he parries one of your strikes and hits your arm, and your sword falls out of your hand for that fumble there, and drops to the ground. So let me note that. Who else got a sword knocked out of their hand?
The guy I was fighting, I knocked his sword out of his hand.
Okay. Sir Clarion. You're matching these guys sword for sword, and you're going to attack both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a -7 to each roll.
Okay. And that's just the
sword skill.
Just the sword skill.
Make a mental note of that you've unhorsed one, Chris, for later.
Okay.
A failure and a success.
Okay, so you lose the first bout and you succeed at the second one. Let's see how this first one goes. So 16 damage incoming. You check for knockdown. I believe, what's your knockdown attribute?
14.
Yeah. So make a dex roll.
Look at that.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and roll your damage for your success against the other guy. So 15. Not enough for knockdown on him. And in both cases, after the blunting of the weapons and your armor, you don't take anything because you dealt out 8, he dealt out 8, and just your mail and padding absorb all that. But it does knock you out of your saddle, and you come crashing.
Well, I was already.
Oh, right. It does knock you to the ground, and just a regular fall like that doesn't do any damage just from standing. But we will note that you are unhorsed. But it doesn't matter because that's the end of combat round 2, which is the end of this hour of battle. So let's figure out what happens. What happens at the end of any battle turn is you may at this point make what's called a squire skill roll. So in your case, since you got knocked from your horse, Sir Clarion, you might want your squire to retrieve that before the knight can take it as his own prize.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and give me a squire skill roll. Oh, okay.
Should have put him in the melee.
Yeah.
So yeah, you start hollering for him.
Yeah.
And he just never shows up. You're like, get my horse, hollering from the ground there, and he never shows up. you can retrieve your weapon, no problem.
Okay.
And there's sort of a good-natured, like a handshake right at the end of the bout, where this Knight of Lothian that you unhorsed kind of helps you to your feet, you know. And he's like, "Well done," because I think you knocked him down first. He got up.
I don't think I got knocked
Oh, right,
out of my
your
saddle.
sword, but he just congratulates you right
Yeah.
on the hit, basically. You know. Then we move on through the next hour of combat. So
Wait.
that's a snapshot of what it was like to fight the Knights of Lothian. If I'm game mastering this without describing what's happening, then I'm going to conceal, you know, the obvious breaks and be like, it's a tense battle where you're not sure if you can outmatch these guys. For every gain that you make on them, it seems like they get you down just as much. Okay, so the day wears on. The melee has gone for about an hour, and it has been friendly for the most part. There'll be moments of either taunting in a good-natured way or congratulations on a particular hit from these Knights of Lothian, and they have sort of a rustic northern accent that places them as Knights of Lothian, as well as their armor and heraldry. But we're going to go on to the second battle turn. So the morning wears on into late morning. And like all battles, we begin with an intensity roll to see where I'm going to put you. All right, so it's a failure, which means you guys have the option to move away from the Knights of Lothian and maybe take it down to the Knights of Gore, or you could stick with these guys if you wish.
And that was our own battle roll?
Yeah, but the captain of your convoy, in this case King Leo de Grants, makes the battle roll, and he succeeded. But I'll let you guys make the choice as though you were commanding it. So do you want to stay fighting these tough northern knights, or go for the poorer looking group that you were aimed at originally?
Yeah, I would keep fighting these guys.
Because you see no sign of a call to the rear, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you did gain 1 morale from the bout. Okay, so now each of you can give me a battle roll.
Oh, almost. Sir Clarion has a head for this.
All right, so the battling wears on. The conditions change a little bit here, where you guys find yourself, like Cadwallon, you find yourself fighting against 2 opponents, whereas Clarion only has 1, and things sort of stay the same for Evrain. It's not the same 2 knights, because you've been pushed aside, because like there'll be a great surge in this whole melee where everybody's like crushed one way, and then you end up, but you're near enough to the same group of people that it's just more Knights of Lothian. So, did you want to invoke a separate passion for this battle turn? You can invoke each passion once per day. So honor's done for you, for Sir Clarion and Cadwallon, and adoration for that Lady of the White Tower is done for you.
Can I do love, family? Since I'm trying to, this is my family was dead, correct?
Think so. Let me see. The passions, that handout I shared with you guys does say when it can be invoked. So it might be ruled out in this context, but let's take. So it looks like whenever the family or a member is in danger, or the outcome of events such as an invasion or battle would put the family in harm's way. I would say that one doesn't quite fit this context.
No.
They have been fairly hospitable.
How does that one work?
No, it's basically if someone tries to attack you.
Attack your
once
home.
Not your home, but you've offered them
Hospitality.
and they try to attack, or if they are a guest, is attacked by a host.
Yeah. I could see that your fealty might come into play here.
Yeah.
I would say it's enough, because he's
closest.
the convoy commander, in this case, King Leo de Grants, is just right there. He still sits atop his horse, but, you know, he's being surrounded, swarmed just as you guys by the Knights of Lothian, so.
Succeeded.
Oh, nice. So you'll get +5 inspiration to your sword skill, or did you want to switch over to your spear?
I will. Well, are we still mounted?
Yeah, you guys are. I think the only
yeah,
one who
I'll
isn't
switch
is
over
Sir
to the
Clarion.
spear at this point then.
Okay. So you're going to have your spear. You're going to stick with the sword. You're sticking with the sword, sir.
Yeah.
And same with you, Clarion.
Yeah.
Was I able to get? Did you want me to do the squire roll to see if I got that guy's sword that I disarmed?
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead. That would have happened at the end of the battle turn.
Woohoo! New sword.
You can make a note of that on your character sheet that you have an extra arming sword when the time comes. So we are set for this combat. We'll begin combat round 1 after you guys select your posture. Now, any of the postures are available to you. So cowardly forces your action into evading and leaving and immediately retiring to the rear. The cautious one, I forget. Prudent, you fight for 1 combat round. Valorous, you're going to fight for 2. Reckless, you're going to fight for 3, and your first action must be a reckless attack, but then it can be other ones after that. And was there any other passion use going to occur for you guys?
Oh, I think I didn't roll mine.
Yeah.
I think I'd switch to honor.
Yeah, I'll do fealty as well as.
You guys all got it. So it's all, you're going to have +5, and let's start the bouts. What posture are you going to take, Brennan?
Valorous.
Valorous. Same with you, Sir Evran.
Valorous.
Cadwallon.
Yeah, valorous.
All right, so the Knights of Lothian are all just attacking you with their swords. They still have their shields. They've rearmed, since the last round or battle turn. So everybody's armed and within engagement distance of each other, except Cadwallon. You've positioned yourself that you're actually about 2 yards away because you got this spear that you had your squire bring out now. And so the engagement starts at that long range. So these guys won't actually be able to attack you with their swords until they move past you, attacking and defending with that spear. So let's start with Sir Evrain this time.
All right. So I have 2 on me?
Yep. 2-1.
All right. I'm taking it they both look about the same. Anyone looking less skilled?
No,
Yeah, they would.
I mean, one of the guy that you hit and dealt a damage to last turn, he's still in the mix there fighting you,
All right.
He saw you, and particularly once the battle swirled back into this and picked you out for another exchange.
So it's attack or defend. I'll attack.
Or you can do a reckless attack, or you can evade, or you
What's
can
the
dodge.
difference between just a normal attack and a reckless attack, though?
So a reckless attack adds 2d6 to your damage roll, but at the cost of it making it easier for them to hit you. So they would get a +5 bonus on it. And defending gives you a +10 to your weapon skill that you're using to fight with. The trade-off is you don't deal damage and you won't receive any if you get a success.
I'll just go normal.
Okay. So
One other question. So with his +5 that he's getting for his personality or his passion, would that basically even it out? So he would just get a normal roll with a +2 damage if he did a reckless attack? Because they would get a +5, he would get a +5, or would both of them just increase? Because it's not, it's not a penalty on him, right?
So both their thresholds would increase. Like he'd have his inspiration threshold, which would bring any roll up to 20 as a success, and then they would have a +5 to theirs, which basically they're both assured to hit each other. It just depends on that.
But I'm also getting a -5 because it's multiples.
Right. So in his case, since he's fighting both of them, he's just rolling his base
he would
skill.
break even.
Yeah. So go ahead and roll out 2.
All right, 2 at a -2 because of my
you're
passion.
still on horseback.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm on horseback, but my passion, right? So
Yeah.
would it be a +3?
No, it's so you're fighting 2 opponents. That's a -5.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on horseback with the kite shield.
Yeah.
That's the -2.
Yeah.
And then you add back in the +5 for your passion. So it'd be just a -2. So -5 for multiple opponents, -2 for kite shield on horseback, +5 for passion. These guys cancel each other out. Just
All
a
right.
-2.
There's a 6 and
Nice.
a -2.
Nice.
Oh, that ass.
Let's see. This first one of his is actually his threshold's 15 and 15. I forgot to put their -2 because they have the same problem as well. But he rolled a 14, which beat your first one, but you beat on the second one. So go ahead and roll a damage out for me.
All right.
And I need a knockdown test from you.
Mhm. At last, unhorsed.
It occurs.
See, working perfect.
All right, so you're knocked from your horse. They batter you with their combined attack, and you fall from your saddle, just taking a point of damage.
Where the leg hinges or the armor hinges, like pinched the skin.
Right.
It didn't do any actual like cut you. It just pinched it, so it really hurts.
And in both cases, the damage dealt by you guys, once the rebate's factored in, the armor absorbs it. So you don't actually take any wounds besides from the fall. But you are on the ground looking up at these two knights, and they are laughing at you. It's hard to see it as good-natured, even though it is, but that's what's occurring. Sir Clarion, you're faced off against one knight there.
Yeah. So I'll attack with my sword. Not a reckless.
Okay. And you
What
have
are
that
those
plus-
symbols that are changing on this one token here?
So one of the knights that was unhorsed from Sir Everine swirled down, and he's one of the ones fighting you, Cadwallon. So you're fighting a mounted knight and an unmounted one. And in the case of Sir Everine, I'm just noting that he's prone for the next combat round, and I also have to put...
So are those automatically changing? Or
No,
are
he's
you
doing
changing?
it. No,
Oh,
I'm doing
okay.
it.
I was going to say,
You just
that's
right-click
pretty
them.
cool. I like that.
That would be nice, but that's not sophisticated, or I don't know what it would take to actually do that, honestly. Would be above my pay grade.
It'd be in the API.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to roll out your sword slash, and you aren't mounted anymore, so you don't have to worry about that -2 for holding your kite shield and fighting with a sword. But your opponent is mounted, which gives you a -5, and he gets a +5. So basically, you're rolling your base skill because you were inspired +5, height disadvantage -5, right?
Yeah. All right. So then.
Nice.
And if you're
Nice.
feeling outmatched, that's actually how you're supposed to feel against these guys, just so you know. This one wasn't the fair
I
fight.
think we're doing pretty good.
No, you were doing better.
for what it is.
A lot of my testing,
We got trounced.
yeah, but it looks like Brandon, despite the disadvantage, succeeded in attacking this guy, so roll your sword damage. Okay, it's not enough to, knock him out of his horse there.
Yeah.
He's just keeping his shield low and parrying the series of attacks you're, thrusting up at him.
Mm-hmm.
And the damage, again, after rebate, just doesn't actually wound the guy, but that's not really the intent anyways. So
Laying his horse.
now we're on to Cadwallon. So yours is a bit of a different circumstance where they actually can't hit you with their swords at this engagement range. Only you can attack them. And because of that, you have a +5 as well. So in your case, doing the math here, you got a +5 inspiration. You got a +5 for having a long reach weapon against an opponent who doesn't. And you have a -2 for the kite shield. So you are just looking at a cumulative, and then a +5 or a -5 for being outnumbered. So you're looking at a cumulative +3, right? For your spear attack roll. And these guys are just going to defend against you because they can't attack you. So they're just trying to use their shield and sword to swipe those spear thrusts away. So you can go and roll your spear.
So if I attack this guy on foot, though, I get another +5, right?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Good call. Yes. So that guy would have a +8. The other guy would have a +3.
Okay.
Or you could choose just to focus on the guy on foot. And then I think you'd be looking at a +13.
All right. I'll see how it goes against both of them. We'll do the guy on foot first.
Okay. So these guys did defend rolls, so you get a +2 when you're taking or a +10 when you're taking a defensive posture. The downside is that even though they succeeded in both ones, they don't deal any damage. And the same with you. They just kept their sword in a guard, like they're in a guard position, and they kept their shields up and batted away those thrusts of yours. And as part of their declaration, they're going to move to within the normal range with you. And
Can I also move?
Yeah, you can declare your move as part in the declaration phase. So just remember, you do it at the beginning, it'll happen at the end, right? So you'd be like, I want to be over here.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so basically I would want to, strategically thinking, right?
Yeah.
I would assume that I would be moving back as well, because I know
Yeah.
that they would try to engage with me, right?
Trying to keep them at that range.
At the distance, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that, and we'll resolve that in a little bit. So that's everybody's gone, right? Okay, so now movement occurs. So they moved up a little bit, and you're moving back a little bit. But go ahead and give me a movement roll. Use your war horse movement.
Everyone or just
Just
Where-
Cadwallon. It should be in your skills section.
yeah, it's below all the skills.
Oh, I see. The horse? No,
Yeah.
hold on. It doesn't give me a thing to roll it. Oh, I see it. Never mind. So I see it.
Mm.
What is the roll calculations here?
It's
You mean when
D20.
you hover over it?
Yeah.
Well, you see a lot of weird stuff in there because, like, if you see KH, it means keep higher, that sort of thing. So you got your 1d20 roll, and then it'll be plus any modifiers you put in there. But since they're all 0, you see all zeros. And then the other side of the equation where it says keep highest, that's where it's factoring what your threshold is. So you'll see 15 plus 0, and then all that other stuff. So if you look at the roll where it says roll equals, you rolled a 3, and then it's going to add any modifiers to it. And then your threshold part that's calculated will be 15 minus 20. So that's where it will show up and say failure at the bottom, because that's going to go to part of the API where it's either going to call for failure or success or critical or fumble, right? So it looks weird because they need to take a numerical value and turn it into print this on the screen, right?
Okay.
So 15 minus 20 gives you a 5-point range for failure to occur, is basically what that's calling. So versus your 3, and then you keep the higher, basically, or keep lowest in some cases. It depends. It'd take me a minute to parse it all out. I've written macros that look like that for Shadowrun, but it's like 2 weeks, and then I'll forget everything I learned, you know? So let's see what the movement here is of these knights. And they fumbled. So this one on foot actually slips, and he stays back, even out of your spear distance. Slips in the mud. So let's move on to combat round 2. Sir Evrain, you start this prone. You're automatically struggling to your feet.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do for this round?
I get to do something else other than stand?
Yeah, you can still attack.
All right. Can I focus on just one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I've been screwing up, because I tried to do that in the charge.
Right.
And it was both or none, essentially. So was it that just because it was a charge? Or?
Yeah, charge, you can only hit the one target, basically. But you can still, ward off both aggressors with your shield, right? It's just not defensive. It's not the same bonus as defensive. But in this case, if you want to focus on one, it makes your ability to attack easier, but then one will make a unopposed attack against you. So,
all right, so let's keep going the way we've been going.
Yeah. So you're on foot, you're prone. That gives you a -5 for the height advantage, as these guys are attacking down at you.
All right.
As you're getting up. If you want to...
Let's make it defensive, so I won't do damage.
Yeah,
actually.
Okay. So let's figure this out. So you're outnumbered, -5.
Mm-hmm.
Height disadvantage, -5. You don't have to worry about your kite shield really getting in the way of what you're doing on the horse anymore.
Mm-hmm. Passion?
Defense, +10.
Okay.
And then your passion, +5. Because you still roll a sword skill even when you're defending, because that's what you're trained to defend with. So I'm seeing -5, -5, +10, +5. So we're looking at a net +5 to your sword skill roll.
And roll it once or twice?
Twice.
All right. So first one, second one. All right. Low.
Well, you got the first one, and not the second one, but you still get all your
bonuses or armor. Yeah.
So that's 14 damage. That may check for another knockdown, depending on your knockdown attribute.
Got it.
So yeah, even despite this attack, they're raining blows down on you, and you're keeping your shield and your sword in the right position, deflecting them away, and you struggle to your feet to face off against them. And there we go. That's the end of that combat round. No damage really coming your way.
Oh, I failed.
What did this just turn into?
It's a melee, John. Get with the program.
Goes.
I'm pagan.
All right, Sir Clarion, you're still on foot against this Knight of Lothian in front of you. What do you want to do?
Yeah, could I tear him out of his saddle?
Yeah, it's there are some rules for grapple. Let's take a look at them. It's in your combat actions handout.
Use flirting to woo him out of his saddle. I think that's what Sir Everine was going for.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look.
Although
here.
it's probably because you didn't pair it with dancing. See.
All right, so this comes in the brawling, and I guess what you're wanting to do is like grapple. So it's normally a two-handed attempt to grab hold of a foe or seize an object from their grip. Once you get the grapple, you have a bunch of follow-up actions. Like you can disarm them, say, hold them, seize them.
Can he target equipment?
Yeah, right. This is where he'd seize
like
something.
The saddle straps or something?
Yeah, if he wanted to seize a hold of it, that would be what the follow-up action is. And then there would be a different sort of Like you might roll weapon damage depending on what it is. Say if you were going to knock a sword out of somebody's hand, you have to just overcome the strength that they have to keep it held in their hand. So you're kind of just dealing a blunt force to numb their hand, and they'll drop something. He can tackle, where the opponent's taken to the ground and pinned. And if they're mounted, they take 1d6 damage. So you can try to like leap into the leap and grab them and take them to the ground, or you can throw them down. But to throw, that's lifting somebody up and then throwing them on the ground. So that happens in a couple of stages.
And is very impressive if you do it when they're on horseback.
Yeah, lift the horse also.
Yeah. So any of those, I can say in the context of this one, you'll run short on time because you have to be in contact or close quarters. And right now you're at normal combat range. So you're going to have to move, fight your way up that close to him to grab a hold of him and either throw him out of the saddle or knock him out of it or take his sword away from him or whatever it is you have in mind.
All right, so we'll say that what I want to do this time then is attack with my sword and move closer.
Okay.
So maybe try that next time.
Hold on a sec. Let me look at Slam here. This is the subtle art of hurling your mass into an opponent at speed and attempt to knock the daylights out of them. Oh, you can only do this if you're both on foot.
Yeah, I don't think it would work against a horse.
All right, so what are you doing?
I'm just going to move up and attack.
All right, yeah, so you were already engaged there.
Yeah.
So you just have a -5 for the height disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
You have your +5 for inspiration, so you're just rolling the normal one.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the victor. Put some damage your way. Big 20. Can you do a knockdown test for me? Yeah, so in the course of your exchange, he just thrusts that rebaited sword, the point's all blunted, into you, and it knocks you off balance, puts it right in your belly, knocks the wind out of you for a moment, or makes you gasp, and you reel backwards, falling down again.
Okay.
And that's how that one turns out. So Cadwallon, the situation you find yourself in at this moment is you're actually only engaged with the one guy because the other fella fumbled and slipped as you were moving that combat backwards a little bit. So you only have to worry about that one. So looking at what you got, he can't even attack you. He gets, so you get a +5 for the long reach weapon. You get a +5 for your inspiration, and then the -2 for your kite shield.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll try to attack him.
Okay.
Nice. Critical.
So yes, he's going in for that attempt to defend, and
That was
you
close.
are the winner of the exchange. So to do critical damage, you roll your spear damage. When the modifier box pops up, type in 4d6. Nice.
Boonk.
Let's see how his knockdown test goes. Ooh, he succeeded.
These dang tanky Scots.
I know. But you did, even after rebate, do 13 damage, but with his shield and Akaton and Hauberk, that absorbs it all. But he does acknowledge your hit there, raising his sword for a moment. And his movement was to keep coming up on you, and this guy gets back to his feet. Were you going to keep your movement going backwards?
Yeah.
I suppose it doesn't matter. That's it for the combat turn. Yep. All right. So that hour of battle ends. I didn't do your morale loss.
Ooh.
Okay. So at the end of that hour of fighting, which you actually had a pretty good show, particularly you, Cadwallon, who were, the least experienced of the three knights here, and you were outmatched 2-1 this time, and you kept them at bay with that spear of yours, so that was a good call. Did you want to try a squire roll to see if your squire will come in this time?
Yeah.
Which I should mention, you can do that as your action in the round, so you kind of are like, where the heck are you? You're spending the round hunting your squire down.
Nice.
Okay.
I'll call for mine as well.
Okay.
We're not going to recharge or anything, are we?
No, he is going. You do hear the call from King Leo de Grant that you're going to retire to the rear for this round. You guys have, everybody's pretty bruised up from this exchange.
All right. Oh, it didn't work.
But this is about getting your horse back, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
D20.
You've got to create that line. Oh, there you go.
Okay. So yeah, he actually comes in with your horse as you're all retreating to the sidelines. As for you, Brandon, your squire does appear with your horse, luckily. But as I had mentioned, he has a bit of rouge on his his cheek. And you called for him like over an hour ago,
Yeah.
almost, and he only arrives now.
Yeah, what was the law on putting squires to death?
Got some straw in his hair.
Yeah. So the retiring to the rear, you come to the sidelines. Of course, the combat's still carrying on for those who still can fight because of morale. And for this next hour, while you're, drinking ale, water, taking more food, maybe switching out your sword for one or a different weapon, right? You gain back some morale, just one.
Oh.
So yeah, it was disheartening to the convoy to not fare better, even though all of you who had realistic expectations knew that wasn't going to happen. For some reason, it took a hit. So you actually end up having to spend a whole nother hour
Moping.
on the sidelines watching people fight.
I'll be patting Sir Clarion on the back.
Yeah.
And then even a third hour as the adrenaline surge leaves you. You guys are just, waiting for King Leodegrance to
Take the field
make
again.
the signal. And he's talking to you. So he's like, men, I would like to square off King Lot himself, but I don't see it happening this day. Shall we continue to press against his men, or should we look for more
Easy pickings.
easy pickings?
I'll follow you wherever you lead,
All right.
my liege.
That's a fairly honorable and diplomatic answer right there. I like that. I was shooting him daggers if he was going to demand a charge into the.
Right.
Yeah, it's a game, my lord. I say we put our lances towards easier fare.
Okay.
I forgot my accent. It's okay.
And what about you, young Cadwallon?
I think that standing 2 hours with the Knights of Lothian was showed our determination and fierceness, but now it's time to show our prowess.
Right.
As I say, we
that's
go after the Knights of Gore.
Gore,
Is
yeah.
that right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Knights of Gore.
The king should backhand him because a simple squire.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, that's Cadwallon P. Esquire.
Mm.
Yeah, so he asked the rest of his knights what they think. And one of the advantages of retiring to the rear is you can actually get a fresh mount for those of you that were unhorsed or your mount was injured. But in this case, you guys got your mounts back. You can make sure everything's secure. And the next time you go out into the field, you'll be mounted and you may have the opportunity to charge again. And it's while you're setting up to enter the tournament again. And like losing that 3 hours, you still have like 5 hours of battle left that you could potentially get into. But just as you're about to head back to the field, you hear some kind of commotion that has broken out on the sidelines as you're preparing for the next bout. If you can each make an awareness roll for me.
No.
Yeah, I ain't aware of anything.
What's that I hear? You're aware? Oh, it's like, no, you're not.
So only Sir Evrain. Okay. So with that success, you hear a young squire shouting something at the sidelines. This is on your side. And this commotion sort of rippling through people who aren't engaged in combat. And some of the knights are like, hey, what's that? What did you say? But then there's a trumpet blare to signal the end of the melee. And this has everybody confused because the tournament was scheduled to last all day. All the knights, even on the field, stop and look around confused. And that's when you hear what this young squire is shouting. And he's saying, the sword, pointing back towards St. Paul's. Now, this is an old Roman basilica, and you see it rising over the wall of Londinium, this ancient structure. It's been retrofitted for Christian purposes. St. Paul's Cathedral, they call it. And you can see it's like a mountain in the background there. That's what he's pointing at. Some comprehend. Well, actually, go ahead and give me an intrigue roll.
Oh, there it is.
It's lost on me. A sword.
Okay, so all of you guys have heard of the sword in the stone that is set before St. Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah.
It has some significance. It's said to be a powerful sword, and but you don't know much beyond that. It's just some bit of legend that's gone through the land. Now, you, Sir Evrain, the master of the courts,
Apparently.
has heard much while you're entertaining one lady or another about this. And she has claimed that what's written on the stone. Hold on, let me scroll up to find it.
Whoever should pull it free.
Yeah, is Rightwise King of all Britain.
Yeah, I'll be kind of leaning over to my companions, being like, whoever pulls the sword is rightfully king of Britain.
Yes. So you know that's inscribed on the stone part of it, and so that goes in. So if what the squire is saying is true, then that means somebody, at least according to the sword in the stone, is king. But he's pointing back towards St. Paul's, and some of these knights are a lot quicker to react to this, and they dispense with the field of battle and whip their mounts towards the old Roman wall surrounding Londinium. And, looking to your lord, King Leo de Grance, he gives you all a nod, and he says, let's go.
Such a shame. I had figured it'd be me. Mount my horse. Follow King...
Leo de Grance.
Leo de Grance. I want to call him Leofric after the one from Diablo.
So give me a horsemanship roll.
Oh, there it is.
Too caught up in the commotion.
Dang it.
Out my own dame
Getting
horse.
jostled.
Okay. So, Sir Clarion, you are directly behind the king as all these knights, start crushing towards what's called the Ludgate on this wall. So everybody, these hundreds of knights out here are trying to funnel into this one thing, but you manage to stay right behind King Leo de Grance, and matters of station kind of create a little bit of a pocket around him, and you're kind of taking advantage of that.
Yeah, Sir Clarion would be right behind the king. Closer to kiss is ours.
Or his horse's ass, either way.
Yeah. Both carry the royal seal, I hear. Oh, man. Gonna get killed.
So failure for the other two, for Cadwallon and Sir Everine, just means you're caught in a jam of like mingling horses that get into this Ludgate. You're not being crushed or anything, but people are cursing. You have to sit there and figure out, do I let this knight go first or whatnot? So there's all these matters. And then you have the common folk who in Londinium seem not too concerned about matters of honor, and they're just pushing past knights and whatnot. And ordinarily, this might be cause for rebuke, but in the rush, you don't really have time to it. So a crushing mass of knights are all trying to get through the Ludgate simultaneously. There's screaming, shouting, and the narrow gate becomes panic-ridden, and for a moment you think you might be stuck there, but then you're through, and the way forward is easier. And from there, it's just a short ride to the courtyard before the old basilica. In your case, Sir Clarion, you see that all the knights, the early arrivers, and King Leo de Grance are circling a young squire, his chin showing its first scraggly whiskers, and he stands by the stone, although he's not holding a sword or anything. He's just standing by the sword and the stone. For those of you, you've come up in the rear, right? So there's like rows of horses. You can't really see. What's that?
Is it Gruffud?
Oh, your squire? No, it's not one of your guys. Oh. That would be funny, but there's a canon for who Squire Arthur is. But anyhow, for those of you who wish to force your way forward, this would be an opportunity to use your station passion. So this is where you're leveraging your actual standing amongst knights.
So how many do I have to kill if I fail, though?
I think we'll only look at that if you fumble.
Okay.
If you fail, you'll just be shut down by knights of higher station. Now get to the back,
I didn't
boy.
even get to the first one.
Make way.
Yes.
Can I try to take Cadwallon with me? I'm generous. He's a friend.
Sure. Yeah, you can actually go ahead and mark generous. Let me make this an opposed roll, though.
Okay.
It's going to say battle intensity. I just don't have a character sheet with station because they don't give it to NPCs. Doesn't matter, I guess.
Keep forgetting that I don't want to roll so low.
So you rolled that 3. Let's see how he does. Ooh, it's a tie.
Dun, 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 dun.
So even though you think he should yield, this knight who's like blocking you from
I'm a
bringing
hedge
Cadwallon,
knight, so he thinks he's better than me.
Yeah, but you're like, we're the same age roughly. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
You're a pompous sword, ain't you? Move aside.
So what do you want to try from this point to break the stalemate?
Is it one of the personality traits, or is it a passion, or is it a skill?
It could be a skill. Look at your character sheet and see if there's anything that...
I'll try courtesy, but could it be underhanded?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and give me a courtesy roll.
Age before beauty, they always say.
So he looks at you like somewhat skeptically, and he's like, fine. And still trying to puzzle out what you were saying, and you and Cadwallon get up to the row behind the knights who arrived first, which are all the knights you can't really station your way past.
Yeah.
And Sir Clarion, of course, who
Always
is at the king's right-hand side.
stick close to me, Cadwallon. I'll see you knighted in no time, boy.
Now you guys can each...
Yes, sir.
You can check your proud trait for all managing to make your way up to the nearest rows.
Oh, proud.
Yep. And finally, let's get a recognized roll. Should be a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you who are so wise in the ways of
Well,
courts?
perhaps the true battlefield is not out
Yeah.
there, but inside the keeps. But I believe I recognize the boy.
Yes. Yeah, you recognize him as the young squire of a knight named Sir Ector, who's from a minor house in the hills of Cambria. He actually led one of the conroys on your side of the tournament. I mean, you didn't fight in his conroy. He's an older knight who, the rumor at court, they put him as kind of a stuffy knight with odd aspirations about honor and knighthood and what it should mean. Basically, the seed of chivalry. So it strikes knights in this time as odd, right? You know,
Not at all like the cartoon.
right. So the crowd is shouting. Their voice is a great babble. You hear cries of, "He drew the sword," and "Who did?" Other voices answer, "He did, that lad right there," followed by gasps of disbelief and mutterings. You know, people are being, "That's not so." The gathering goes quiet as King Lot finally shows up. He came in the rear, but his station being a king is such that he just pushes through.
Do we kneel?
No,
Okay.
not really. Only if you owe fealty,
Okay.
which you don't. You know, he's like a warlord.
Oh, okay.
basically,
We're
right?
not. Okay, yeah.
But he pushes the squires aside and he says, "Nonsense. If this thing is going to move, it will move for me." King Lot says. He pulls, he goes up to the sword and stone and puts his hand on it, and he pulls and pulls until he just lets go and staggers back. And then you hear like an odd voice that seems to come from everywhere, but you can't really pinpoint it. You just hear like, "Let the boy try." But it's almost like it's right next to you, but you don't see the person who says it. It's just clear and calm. It comes from somewhere that you can't pinpoint. Sir Ector nods to the young squire again, who pulls the sword from the anvil as easily as if it were in a well-oiled sheath. The crowd gasps and is silent. Make a religion roll.
Oh, this is where I'll fail. Yeah.
Sir Clarion, I think that me and you are one and the same here.
Yeah.
We know nothing about the ways of court, religion, or any other intrigue except for battle.
We know nothing.
Yeah, so basically you guys are tripped up on what the why, like, even though you knew that's what it said, like why it would mean so much to anybody, right? You don't have any take on it one way or the other. This is the point where...
Well, it's one more warlord.
Yeah, right. And they can determine who's king however they wish, you know. But you can see that there is some contention between Sir Ector and Sir Lot, or King Lot, as to what this means, you know. But another knight pushes his way forward to try his hand at unsheathing the sword. The young squire obliges him, sliding it back into place. Much the same as with King Lot, the newcomer struggles to no avail. Once he is spent, the squire again pulls the sword with no trouble. There is a new hush in the crowd as those assemble considered what it means, and for knights like you, uneducated, uncultured, you're like, what could that mean? Then that clear, too calm voice of unknown origin says, "He is the king." At this, King Leodegrance, your liege, shouts, "The boy drew the sword, the boy is the king." And for a moment, it seems as though that shall be the final say in the matter, as others voice their agreement. But then, booming, rustic-voiced King Lot cuts above all. "Not while I live." He draws his sword and strides towards the squire, his guard in tow. Now, we're going to end this session for today here.
Oh.
Pick it up next week. But you can give us a little bit of what you might do. You know this is going to put him at odds with your liege lord.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you don't think pulling a sword from a stone is a good basis for a system of government.
You bastard. We were doing good. This is on you.
So why don't we part with that? Everybody, what his internal thought would be for each of our player knights here.
Well, King Leodegrance said that he's the king.
Yeah.
So he's the king. So I would
At least
go
for this year.
rush to defend the boy.
All right, Sir Everin.
Because I
Oh,
also happen to believe that pulling a sword from a stone is a good basis for
Good as any, right?
yeah.
I think I'll kind of be like honest about it, because that's another good personality trait I got.
Right.
Yeah, like he pulled the sword. My own liege declared him king, and I also think you probably shouldn't go around killing children.
Right.
Maybe I'm a bit odd in that mindset in this era, but the boy has done nothing other than just draw a sword that apparently grown men cannot. So something's going on there.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. Cadwallon.
Yeah, not for loyalty to the king that we're currently employed with, but everybody seems to be making a big deal out of it. So
Sides are getting picked.
yeah, I mean, I don't have a true lord at this point, so why not this new one, right?
Right. This could, a young king might need new knights, so could be an opportunity to get your spurs, is what they call it when you're knighted, or what they might refer to it as. All right. Well, thanks for playing. We have maybe another session or two before we finish up this one shot, and we'll catch you guys
I'm really
next time.
liking it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My only complaint is that you didn't let me try to pull the sword from the stone.
Well, you guys. This has been a Deathwatch production. Thank you for listening.